Can you see us?
Let's see.
I can see you.
You can see me now. Can the audience see? Whoever tunes in, I can't see anything.
Let's
Swipe to one
see.
side and see if that does it.
All right, I see an eye. I like so that'll tell me how many viewers we got.
It may take a second to come up, but it says we're live.
All right, so we're gonna
On here.
pretend that we're live. We're gonna pretend that people can see us. So,
But I don't think we
welcome.
are.
No, we're not live.
I see
Oh, you have
something
to
that
connect
says
it.
live. We've been live for
It says
45
live here, but I
seconds.
don't know where we're streaming to.
Is it on our Facebook?
No,
All right,
I'm on the Facebook right now. It's not live or
it's not on
anything.
mine. It's not on mine.
Let me check yours again. I went to
Yeah,
yours.
it might not
You
be
are,
on
yes, on
Facebook.
yours. Yes,
Yes.
on yours.
All right.
Yes.
So the flow
Yay!
So the flow state one isn't working just yet. So we're a minute in, and I'm just going to go ahead and pretend that we know what we're talking about. So real quick, everybody, thank you for bearing with us over the course of the last minute and 15 seconds. We don't have the funds for our own studio yet. So that being said, I left my headphones on while I was yelling at my boys to clean up their mess hours ago, and the headphones died. And I went to go turn them on, and so now I can't be in my computer, and now I'm doing it on my cell phone. But we made it. We figured out how to get here. And so my name is Ryan. I'm one of the coaches here at Flow State. Who are you right above me in this Brady Bunch photo?
So it looks like it's me. I'm John Anthony. And I'm with the Safe Counseling Program, and I work with men and women to help them to stop violence in their lives.
Excellent. And who's that to the my right, your left?
Me? I
Yes.
am Jackie, and I am a coach and student at Flow State Martial Arts.
Welcome. Thank you, Coach Jackie. And who's that below you?
My name would be Paul. I'm also a coach slash student at Flow State Martial Arts.
Yes, yes, he is. So John Anthony and Paul haven't met. We're going to make it awkward for them. And we're just going to throw them right here into the mix of it. But I'm sure that everybody's going to do just fine. So, John Anthony, I'm just going to take it away and go real quick. I saw something this week. I saw a post on social media by a sheriff's office in Florida that got me very upset. It put me into my fear very quickly. And the reason being is because it was a young man, 11 years old, in handcuffs. And the post was pretty much explaining why this young man was in handcuffs, saying he made a kill list at his school. Okay, so I'm going to try to put the series of events that I saw and read about into order. So the story goes from my research that this gentleman was being bullied at school and was asked to write out his big emotions. And when he did so, he listed the names of some individuals that he wanted to hurt badly. And so as a result, the teachers, I guess, followed protocol. And one of the pieces of that protocol was to notify law enforcement. And the sheriff's office picked up this young man and arrested him. Now, again, he's 11 years old. The sheriff's department is making a Facebook post about it, explaining what happened. Um, but the piece that put me into my fear the quickest was because I felt for this young man um, through my own past wounds. All right, and before I go any further, um, the comment section suggested that this young man, his father is not in the picture right now. His mother's experiencing some difficulties trying to help him manage his emotions at home. But apparently, he's involved in sports. He plays football. He's apparently a very good football player. And the coaches are working with him to really try to keep him engaged and on the right path. So people are trying here. People are trying here. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this is not just to go on again about my life, but say that it put me into my fear because one thing that I'm realizing through my work that I'm doing over myself recently is that I'm very hurt by the labels that I was given throughout school. When I think about how, I was labeled a bad kid, where, things perhaps weren't going well at home because my parents were going through a divorce and my mother lived at the other end of town. And that's besides the point. But what I'm trying to say is that I do remember a lot of teacher parent meetings taking place. I do remember being told, right, hearing that I was a lot of things, right, all these titles that I can't even remember, but that persisted into middle school and high school. and I was in the ES classes, the emotional support classes. All right, and some people knew it as the bad kid classes. But what I'm realizing later in life is that those titles, that way of life, hurt my confidence. All right, I'm just going to come out and say it. It hurt my confidence. It's impeded on my ability to find my worth at times. You know, I've had a great life. I met a great woman. She's been patient with me. I found success in the hospitality industry, but I guess my point is that I'm trying to figure out what I want to discuss, and I guess it's labels. I guess it's labels. They start very young, and I feel like they affect our mental health, and I wanted to take some time to talk about that. So, the title was going to be "Young Men and Their Mental Health," but right now I'm going with labels, children, and how it may be affecting them in positive or negative ways. And I was wondering if you had any input. I know I just ranted for like 10 minutes there.
It's only 5. So you're good. Well, I think that this is one of the problems that I think we have as society. You know, we want to we want to control violence so that, you know, people don't hurt people, but sometimes in doing so, we hurt the people we're trying to control. And I think that being labeled as bad, you know, being given all those names that you talked about, you know, those are thoughts that are being put in your head about who you are. And at that age, you know, like that 11-year-old, you know, it's real easy for a person to start to think of themselves as how they're being told they're being seen by other people. And it can be, you know, a real challenge to overcome. And it's because we're wanting to hurt, you know, and, you know, we want to hurt somebody so that they don't hurt other people. And, you know, because we're not really understanding, you know, that 11-year-old, if his father's not in his life, you know, that's going to create a problem for him. And if his mother's having a difficult time being a single parent, you know, that's going to create difficulties for him, just like your parents going through a divorce created challenges for you, plus you being adopted.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I think that as a society, we don't pay enough attention to try to understand where people are coming from, you know, what their hurts are. We just want to come down on them so that they don't hurt others, you know, but that's what we're hurting them, you know, so we're not practicing what we want them to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from experience, and I think you know, I know that your children you're in middle school. Your daughters, you're at one of them at least.
No,
No, high
none
school.
of them.
None of them.
2 sophomores and a 6th grader.
2 sophomores and a 6th grader. So I don't know what the process has been for your girls, but what I can do, what I can say is from Jade going back to school and the boys going to school. They do take a lot of time to work on emotions. I'll just say, you know, use the phrase these days. Monica's a teacher, and she comes home and tells me that they're holding assemblies, and that there's different processes and practices in place, daily practices where, you know, students can write out their feelings and talk about how things are going at home. Um, and I do see that, you know, it seems that the schools and everybody are coming around, but I guess there's no simple answer. I think that one thing that always frustrates me is that you know, we have to, like you said, we got to isolate, we got to label, and I think that that creates issues. I think that that creates fears. I think it impedes on confidence, but there's no one answer for it. So, what I can say is that I think that we're heading in the right direction, and I'm just ranting here. But Paul, Jackie, did you have any insight on what we're talking about regarding giving people labels, even at, you know, the young age of 11 and earlier in some cases?
Yeah, I think I do from personal experience, and it wasn't really anything like behavioral for me. Growing up, I was not good at school kind of ever. So when I started to reach like 5th grade, I was taken out of the regular math classes, I was taken out of the regular English classes, and really from that point on, for the rest of my educational career, I was always kind of behind. looking back on it now as an adult, I can see like I lack the focus, or like I lacked the help I needed to help me succeed. So I was bad at school, and I know I hit a certain point where I was like, well, I'm just not good at this, because this is like, the label that I got. So like I'm not going to try. And like that carried on like into my adult life, which is like, I'm not very smart, like etc. But at the same time, I am a wonderful artist. I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but I think I am a great artist. But growing up in school, like those talents weren't supported. But because the most important thing was, how I did in math or science or English was what was going to get me, far in life, that I totally threw my talents to the side. Even now in adulthood, like I struggle with it. That because of, the label that I feel was put on me was, I'm not smart, I'm not good at this, etc. So that's my personal struggle with labels.
Paul, did you have any experience with that? Do you ever get a label? Were you ever told that you were something? Were you ever diagnosed and then you felt some sort of way about it, even here in your adult life?
He's
Yeah,
triggered with the
I would
diagnosis
say that
already.
I am not I detest labels overall with anything. For me, I had the polar opposite experience Jackie had. In school, I was always a principal's list kid. So I was always pretty smart. But when I was labeled that, because I'm an only son, by the way, I'm an only child. So all the focus in my household was me. And when it was discovered early on that I was pretty smart, or at least according to the school's curriculum and everything, there was little room for failure. There was a standard set that I had to hit straight A's, to the point where 93 to 100 was an A on a test, right? I remember scoring like a 91 or a 92 in like sixth grade, and I hid it from my parents because I was petrified of what they would have thought. It was like a point or two below an A. And then that kind of did carry over into adulthood, that like, okay, well, if I'm not perfect at this, I'm not going to do it. If I'm not excellent at this, if I'm not the best in the room at all times, it's a problem. And that kind of carried over into adulthood, unfortunately. And then, as Jackie said, you kind of break that down as life goes on and learn from your mistakes. But I'm not a fan of labels, whether they're negative or positive. I think they create issues on both sides.
Yeah, I'm going to say real quick to add to what you said about school. Monica and I have talked about this before. So Monica was 4.0 GPA, Dean's List, all that fun stuff, right? I was not that person. I failed out of college 3 times. The only reason I even have a career or had a career in hospitality was because I needed money. I got a job as a server, and I just so happened to be good at it. And then boom, right? A career came about. But I'm 36 years old, so I graduated. I'm 37, whatever. Graduated in 2007, and that time, right? I don't know who was in school or looking to progress at that time, but that was like the era where college was everything. You had to have a bachelor's degree, you had to have a master's degree, and there I was, like, I cannot get through the first semester of college. There were a couple of times where I was like, my life is over. And I already had a child. I had a child. She was 2 years old, and I just remember crying in my car one day. But I will say that, the expectations or how society made it seem that you couldn't make anything of yourself if you didn't have a bachelor's or a master's degree, like severely impeded on my confidence and in anything career wise.
Well, I feel like it's even the same with me. Like when I'm not good at school and I'm not going to go to college and like I mean, I did do well, but I'm like, okay, like this is really isn't my focus because I'm not good at this. But then I faced a different challenge, like as a woman, because at the time I wasn't sure like if I wanted to have children at the time. So I'm like, okay, like as a woman in society, if I'm not going for career and then like I don't want to have children, like what the heck am I going to do? And that had me lost for a little while, just up in the air.
Listen, it can definitely impede on you. So, John Anthony, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on labels or anything that you've heard from Paul, Jackie, or myself regarding expectations or lack thereof, and how that can affect a person.
Well, I have to go back to college so I can tie you. I only flunked out of school twice.
Okay, so you did better than me.
So I have to go back so I can flunk out 3 times so that I can be there with you on par.
Just sign up for a random class and then fail it.
But my degree was in engineering, and my heart was not in it. I was good at math, and so that's why I was in it. My dad was an electrician, and he told me, you know, go to work, go to school, get an education, so that I can go to work with a white shirt and a tie and tell people like him what to do. Um, and it sounded good to me, but engineering just didn't have my heart. It wasn't until my last year in engineering that I discovered, counseling and went in that direction. But there's always going to be labels, and sometimes we do a better job, than others. Different communities, different families, all related to traumas that the community or the family has. But I think being mindful and being aware of what we're doing, what we're going through, what we're thinking, what we're feeling is just very important for all of us to learn how to do that, so that we can be in control of ourselves as we respond to the events in life, instead of trying to control the events.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Yep.
So we'll say that the title of this episode with men and mental health, and all of the things that come with it. Did your father actually say to you to go to college, to get a job, to tell people like him what to do? Was that the verbiage? Was that the mindset?
Yep. That's what he said. That's what
That
he
to
said.
me is a problem. Paul and I, our generation likes to blame the boomers for everything. Sorry to our dads and everybody else that might be listening, right? But I will say that that is a poisonous, or in my opinion, a poisonous, toxic mindset that it seems to have gone away a little bit. But the right there, be better than me. That's what it sounds like to me. Be better than me. I'm not where I want to be, and that to me, I think, is something that has impeded on men's health as well.
I think I think be better than me isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we all want our children to be better than us in some fashion, right? Whether it's financially or just in life. I think the poor direction was how to be better. Like, you have to go to school. I know for a fact when I went to school, I had to go to college. And if you want to be successful in any regard, you have to go to college. Now you're seeing all these kids graduate college degrees. They're buried in student loans. They can't find jobs. It's so competitive because everyone's done that. And now you have trade schools. We have a shortage of electricians, carpenters, welders, all the trades that nobody wanted to do, mechanics. Well, like, it's the opposite now. So it's like that advice wasn't even good. It would just
The
backfire.
grunt work, right? Be a
Right.
grunt. Do you want to be a grunt your whole life? Do you want to, do you want to work hard? Do you want to be covered in dirt every day? Do you want to, be slaving over, whatever the case may be? I don't know. Maybe I do, but it turns out that that there's a need and that it pays pretty well. Yes. So I agree with you, Paul. I like that what you said about how, maybe not the mindset. Because that's right. That's right. We do want our children to be better than us. We want to see our team members and everybody else, family, to go on to succeed. But right there, I think that that's like such a problem. Like you said, you got to, these expectations that you hit. If you don't do X, you're not going to be successful. If you don't do this, you're not going to be, that doesn't make you a man. I'll tell you one thing that I've really been struggling with over the last couple weeks, I'll say. I am the stay-at-home dad. I do not bring the income in at the moment. I am working with my team here to try to develop a kickboxing martial arts school and make something of it. And we want to take students in, and we want to teach them, and we want to help people. And today I told myself that I'm very proud of that, because sometimes it creeps up on me. Sometimes I just tell Monica, I don't know why you're with me. I'm not bringing any money home. You bring home all the money. You know what I mean? But then I remind myself that these are discussions that we had. These are arrangements that we talked about. I enjoy being home with the kids. Monica enjoys what she does. She loves it. She's been doing it for 18 years. I love teaching martial arts. And not only that, my children have a stable routine, because I'm the first guy that they see in the morning, right? The first person. They have breakfast, they make their beds, we get them to school on time. They're doing well in school. They see my face every day when I pick them up. I think only one other time over the last 2 years that somebody picked them up. But my wife and I are very comfortable with that. It brings us happiness. We like to see that our children are doing good in school. And we believe that the presence of one parent consistently is a big piece of it. And so, as somebody who used to work 14 hours a day in the hospitality industry and missed a lot of time with his family and his children, I ask people where both partners are working. People say, I don't know how you do it with 4 kids. I don't know how you guys do it working 2 full-time jobs. And I mean that in the nicest way because I think everybody needs more time. And I think that sometimes that's where we fall through the gap is the lack of consistency, other people raising the kids. And I think it's so important. I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think consistency is important. I think that it's part of the thing that can help break the cycle at home. And I don't know. I don't know. I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go with this tonight, but what I'm saying is I believe that there needs to be a serious cultural change. And I just don't even know what the answer is, but our youth are hurting. They continue to hurt. And I don't think that 11-year-olds should be being labeled for anything.
I think maybe on our I forget who I tell things, but maybe on the oh no yeah we did talk about this with the toddlers when they would get upset and like how I was like I just wanted maybe like the why like to explain. So
Yeah.
even with this young man who okay we see a young man, he's obviously hurting, he's obviously going through something, he obviously has something going on at home, so here we're just gonna like put this label on him and condemn him forever to carry this around with him. But we need to ask the why, because I don't believe anybody wants to be that way. Like he doesn't want these labels. I don't think he wants to be angry. I don't think he wants to wake up and go into school and be wishing harm upon people.
You know what I'm going to say real quick?
Yes. No. Go
My
ahead.
and listen, it is nothing against educators, it is nothing against therapists, right? Everybody has their own opinion, and I know that there are a lot of great teachers and therapists out there. I am married to one. But what I will say from somebody who lived through it, through the IEPs, through the title giving and all that, you're kind of sold like we're here to help you. We're here to help you. I'll tell you what, I was pushed through high school. I was pushed through high school. I didn't have any of the basic math or science or English skills that I needed to have when I got to college, which is part of the reason I failed out. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, there's not enough time in the day to help every single person, right? And so that's why I think it's so important for the family and the community. It takes a village to raise a child. But I guess what I'm saying is that, I was told I was going to be helped. I was told that these classes would be good for me. They would be good for me. Oh my goodness, it's like how wrong were we? And I think that's my fear for this young man and most of the young men and women out there is that I know our educators and everybody are doing the best job that they can, or at least I hope. But I mean, like, I just don't think there's any one direct answer. And I don't think giving labels and putting them in certain classrooms is the answer either.
Maybe more concentrated support systems, because when I think of like, okay, therapists and educational systems, the machine just feels too big to find and focus on one
Like
person.
there's no end. It's a
There's no
never ending
end.
circle.
Kind of like, okay, next. Oh, okay, all right, bye. Like, kind of like, okay, but what personal attention? I'm a very big fan of personal attention. What personal attention did I really get? Like, that's what I needed. I didn't need to sit in a classroom with, everybody else, because I'm just gonna fly down the middle as best I can. I feel like I needed somebody, personal attention
Yes.
in
And
those moments.
well, I was going to say to personal attention, I'm thinking to myself, John Anthony, one of the reasons that I always preached about John Anthony over the last, several years that I've known him was that it didn't feel like it was a cycle. John Anthony, and then I'll let him speak, of course, for himself in his own program, but from where I was sitting in his groups, he let me speak and he wouldn't feed me the answers. I had to use the tools. I had to say how I got there. John Anthony's like block, block, block. Nope, can't, what I mean? He's like, nope, nope, nope. But my point is no, he was teaching me, he's teaching all of us, in my opinion, how to give ourselves that "Are you a cat?" to give ourselves that attention that is needed, right? And so it's really weird when you're a child because you're like, wait, come, somebody, wait, I'm here, right? You're supposed to give me attention, right? I need attention. Yeah, the kid needs attention. Put him in the classroom. Yeah, give him an IEP, put him in the classroom, and just we'll see how it goes from there. And then it's usually a very calm setting. Maybe you were in an isolated setting, fewer students, where it's like, okay, they're doing very well. Well, I don't know. It seems like we've tuned down the standards. It seems like have we fixed the problem? Well, they're being successful in school. They're being successful in school. How they doing at home? How they doing on the playgrounds? I don't know. I don't know. But that's really where it ends. We're on the classroom. We didn't really get to the social skills part with them. Okay. All right. Well, as long as the classroom's good.
Mhm. You wanted John Anthony to comment on his experience?
Oh yeah, his group. Well, I guess how he teaches people how to help themselves, or his thought
Well,
process on it.
I think you were on the right track, Ryan. It's about learning how to do it ourselves. You know, it's about learning how to identify the feelings that come before my anger, the primary emotions, you know, sadness, disappointment, shame, embarrassment, concern, and fear. And then how to give myself that are you a cat love, you know, the respect, understanding, acceptance, caring, appreciation, and trust to alleviate my emotional pain. Because we do grow up looking for others to do it for us because we can't as children. We don't have, our brain is not developed. And then ideally, as we become an adult, then we're capable of giving it to ourselves. And then we have that love. Unfortunately, if we got a lot of condemnations and judgments and put downs, then we grow up with a different set of beliefs about ourselves that isn't building us up, but helps to tear us down. So, you know, labels are there because it's convenient, just like you all have a name because it's convenient. So we don't have to, hey, you with the hat, you know, we can call your name. And so when I'm talking about somebody, you know, we can talk about a label. Oh, he's got all those traits, you know, instead of having to restate all the traits every time. So that's why we do it, but it doesn't always serve us productively because sometimes people can be stigmatized by the label. So
Sometimes I think, I hear about parents wanting the label, right? Parents encouraging, parents making up why the student can't perform X, Y, and Z. I think there's a few situations, many situations, of course, right, that these children are falling into. But I tell you, one thing that always drives me crazy is when there's lazy parenting. I don't have out the answers. I am not a great parent by any means. I'm doing the best I can, right? I'm not a stellar parent, but I'll tell you what, my wife and I, we try. We try because we know how it affected me. She's a teacher, she sees it daily, right? And we want to give our children the best opportunity that we can. And I'm sure every parent does, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm not sure that sometimes parents realize just how much work you need to put into this whole parenting thing. Like, I think some parents believe that it is the school's responsibility since to take the child to get them on the right course and, just make sure that they can become a successful individual. We're bypassing the emotional piece of it. We're bypassing everything that's going on in the hallway, on the playground, on the bus, right? At the bus stop. What's going on at home? But if they do well at school and they keep progressing and they're not getting arrested, well, I guess everything is fine. Right. But what about when they start getting arrested? Whose fault is it then? Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it?
Then I
Anyone.
feel like it's much easier to pass off, as you said, oh, well, he's just bad, he's this, and oh, he's just angry, and again, why is that the child, I'll say at this point, angry? I don't think again anybody wants to walk around being angry with these negative emotions, and also, being, I don't know how deep we want to get into it, but just like also
Go deep.
go deep. No, I was gonna say just even teaching children how to control their emotions from a young age. And I know I shared a video on my Instagram a little while ago where the dad was sparring with his young son outside, and something happened where the son's glove like rebounded and it like just hit him in the face a small bit, but the son was very upset. I think he was very startled, and he started to get really, really angry, and the dad's like, no, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that, nope, come back, and taught him to control that. And that, okay, there's something, uncomfy that happened to me, you know, maybe it scared me, maybe I'm embarrassed or something like that. So I'm going to have, you know, this outburst and be angry. But then to teach a child that, like, okay, no, it's okay, come back, we're going to control that, and to be like, no, we're safe, everything's okay, I think isn't really taught that much amongst parents, because I think that can take a lot of patience. And, you know, depending on the parent's day or their mood, if the child has, you know, a really big outburst, to just be like, okay, you're bad, you know, we're done, go inside, you're misbehaving, which I think is very unfair as well.
I think the bad thing about that too is when parents don't teach that stuff, kids will find it somewhere else. And as prominent and mostly negative social media can be, that is the worst place for young men, especially, to learn anything. And then to carry that into school is just, I don't know. I find that a lot of younger kids these days, just because social media is so much more prominent than it was when I was a kid. I grew up, it was like AIM Instant Messenger and MySpace. There wasn't much there. Like now with TikTok and Instagram, people sharing their lives and how great their lives are, and everyone's comparing themselves against each other. It just creates this mess if parents don't instill those kind of things in them.
I think I was thinking about what you said today about like social media and things. And here's the thing, I don't like to fault social media, and I'm not saying that your opinion's wrong, but what I was thinking this afternoon was that I think the circumstances have changed overall, right? And like you just said, how can you help but not ask yourself, like you see your friend or somebody you know, and they take a beautiful picture with their family and they're dressed nice and they're out to dinner, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't really have money in my bank account to be doing that with my family. So, I guess I'm just a failure at life. And does that thought sound ridiculous? I don't think so. I think that it's a thought. I think that sometimes we're not necessarily trying to control our thoughts. They just happen, right? Because it's there, because it's right in front of us, and it's affecting the way I'm feeling, and I'm comparing myself, like you said. Right. And one thing I wanted to say, I think about this often, people like to talk about, don't bully, don't do this. I will tell you, anybody 35 years of age or up, and I'm talking about people in their 60s and 70s, are the worst on social media, are the worst bullies in the comments section. So, John Anthony, does it work if I am a very emotional person as a parent, but then tell my child not to be, that's not right? Does that work when they see me constantly having issues controlling my emotions? And then I ask
Well,
them to control theirs?
it's been practiced for centuries. Do as I say, not as I do.
My dad used to say that as a joke.
Oh yeah.
That's what
Are
I
you
grew up
sure?
with. And see, well, people, we go through developmental stages, and one of the stages is what our peers think of us. We are, there's a point in all of our lives where our peers are more important to us than our parents' beliefs about us. The complicated part is that you can access your peer information with you can access your peer information, by online with so many people that it's like you can get an overload of peer feedback or comments, and so that adds to the challenge, and it's also real easy for all of us as we're growing up to blame other people for why, you threw the ball wrong. I didn't drop it. That was an uncatchable ball that you threw me. That's why I didn't catch it. And it's real easy for a lot of us to go there instead of just saying, wow, I got to do a better job of catching that ball next time. I lost focus. I was looking for the person who's going to tackle me, and I didn't follow the ball in, whatever. But it comes down to, being mindful, taking responsibility for what's going on for us. And, there's so much going on that, you're over here tending to this fire, and then you get that taken care of. And then all of a sudden you look over there and there's another fire, and then you got to run over there. Years ago, when I was living in Florida, I was at this hot springs. It was a underground water springs. It wasn't like hot, but it was, it was like a clear spring underwater area in Florida. And these two young kids, who were probably, 11 or 12, were in a fight, and they were being egged on by all, about 14 or 15 other peers in their, some of them a little bit younger, some of them a little bit older, but it was all, in that age group. So, I thought, I can't let them fight. So I intervened and I just kept everybody off of those two. And I said, okay, you two have a problem, so do what you got to do. They didn't want to fight. They were just trying to talk through it, but the other people were egging them on. And so I thought I was doing a really good job because pretty much everybody was ganging up on one person. And they were trying to make this other kid fight that one person because he was the same age. But he didn't want to fight that other person, and that person didn't want to fight. But they were being peer pressured. And so I'm standing there trying to keep everybody at bay. And then all of a sudden I look over here and some other kid grabbed that kid's bicycle and threw it off the pier into the water, and it's like, okay, I took care of this, but I wasn't able to take care of that. And I think that this is what we do in society. We try to address one thing and then we have something else. And then we have these things that sneak up on us because they're different. We have different media. It's like I was sitting here laughing to myself, because you're talking about internets and, and this and that. I had TV and I had radio, and that was it. And but as you get a new thing, it complicates things, and we can either go, work with the complications, or we can get taken down by them. It's up to us.
Mm-hmm.
Either keep up or get left behind.
I'm gonna circle back to a little bit because I'm wondering what everyone's thinking about this, right? Or more, whomever. This is one thing I wanted to ask everybody. We've talked a few times on this show about how consistency in a child's life is important, right? Try to keep things as calm as possible. It's all important, right? You can develop childhood trauma as early as 8 months old or finding out, right? So, what is the recipe? What is the secret sauce to make sure that we do a good job with our children? Because it just seems like there's so many components and some that are out of our control. Some parents got to work overnight. Some parents go away for work, right? So, how can you maintain consistency? Well, one parent could be present, but now it's on that one parent to make sure that they hit every single note. I got to be consistent. I got to be the comfort. I got to be the energy. I can't lose my temper because my child might end up losing their temper if they think that it's okay to lose their temper. It's a lot for people to take in. So I'm just wondering if anybody has any suggestions or thoughts on things like that. How can we be consistent with the challenges that we face in society today?
I feel like a lot of stuff
Martial arts.
Martial arts. Sorry. Yeah, come see us. Flow State.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead,
We got
Jackie.
the Instagram. No. No, I was gonna say I feel like a lot of the things you listed, like if there's a single parent or somebody has to work overnight, etc. Like those things happen because of circumstances that may be out of our control. I think where we can get consistency is just to keep the child safe physically and emotionally. And even if there is one parent to help the child understand the best that they can, like even though like this is what we have going on, like it is okay. Like there's nothing to think of the situation, even if I was a single mom, to be like, yeah, I am a single mom, like I don't have anybody, and here I am with you, and all and stuff like that, to not turn it into a bad situation. Like, hey, this is what it is. This is our life. This is normal. But hey, we're safe and we're alive and breathing and healthy and everything like that. Because as you
I
said,
think
sometimes I think things just happen that we can't control. Maybe I have to get a second job, or Paul would have to get some other job, but it's like we're okay. It's normal.
I think that's some great advice. Actually, I was going to say, like, overall, I think communication is a very big piece of it. But I don't want to
Hmm.
keep talking just yet. John Anthony or Paul, you have any ideas on consistency in the home and what we can do, or any thoughts on the matter? It's a lot. It's a lot.
I'm not a parent, so tough for me to stick my nose in that one. But I would say, from my personal experience as a kid, I think having an I'm going to speak from a young man perspective. I think young men need to feel safe in their home to share how they're feeling, whether it's masculine feeling or not, and not have that push too much on them. Because I think young men in our generation, Ryan, were forced to, like, men acted a certain way, and that was it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You didn't hold your feelings or share your feelings. You kind of held on to it, dealt with it, and never faced it. I think men need to be taught how to handle things as they come, how to cope with that, how to handle it, resolve the feeling, and then move on.
I think because I want to speak to what you just said. I think that's truly one of the most important things. I was reading this Instagram post yesterday, and this gentleman he's got 1 million followers. So I'm just saying that he does say things that make sense to people, but he was going on a rant about how, like, you're not a man if you don't work so many hours. Like, if you don't
God.
work a relentless amount of hours, then you're just not a man. And I will say it got into my head a little bit. I'm like, dang, I'm not bringing in a ton of money in or any money in from this gym just yet, but I'm trying. I care. I'm passionate about it. My wife's passionate about it. But what I will say is that, to all of that, to people that think that, oh, you got to do X, Y, and Z, or you can't do X, Y, and Z if you're a man or to be a man, I give my boys a hug after school every single day. They run into my arms every single day. I give my boys a kiss on their forehead every single day. If I see them and I feel like I just want to give them a hug because I'm grateful that we're around and have time together, I give them a hug. I think that all of this is super important, and not just for the boys, for the girls too, right? To show that that, like, love is there and it's consistent.
Hmm.
But yeah, I still hear and see men saying, like, "Oh no, you don't do that. That's not manly. That's not how what. Nope, you're not a man if you don't. Get out of my business. Get out of my business. My wife and I have communicated our lifestyle works for us. Or how about this? My lifestyle works for me. I'm happy. I'm doing what I want to do, right? But it's like, oh nope, you're not a man if you don't. Who in the gave that hard rule, these hard sets of rules that you're not a man if you don't hit these marks? It still annoys the crap out of me.
It's. I think I've said it before, where I feel like some children go through the experience of parents who are like, well, I paid for this and I paid for that and I kept a roof over your head and I drove you here, and it's like, yeah, mom, but I could have used a hug. I could have used an I love you, and it's kind of the same thing for like for like the man thing right now, where like I work 7 days a week and I don't have any days off because that's what a man is. It's like, okay, like that's great, but I could have like to spend a little time with you, or like that. I don't know.
Sorry. So a few things I want to speak on that real quick. Jackie, also, is there any comments on Facebook? If you could take a look, Monica was just showing me
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
to to what you were saying though about I could have used the hug. I think that, like, again, I think communication is super important, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I just. I guess trying to figure out what I was trying to say. Yes, right. It's almost like some people just weren't taught any different. Like, when they say that, right? John Anthony always says, "Hurt people, hurt people." Now, that might not be somebody intentionally trying to hurt somebody. It might be somebody who is doing what they were raised to do. You know what I mean? I think that's one thing that people, we talk about all the time, perception. You're saying, somebody says, well, I pay for your lifestyle, I pay for this, I work all day. And it's like, how do we know that that was not the communication that was given to that person? This is what you got to do in life. This is the only way to do it. Right? We're very influent, like, we can be influenced easily when we're children or teenagers and things like that. And so, when people say that, is it fear? Is it what they were taught? I think it's communication, and I think some people are still trying to learn how to communicate. Sorry, did anybody comment?
Yep, I just commented back to Monica as well. She put a comment. She said, "Consistency is a blend of communication and discipline. To be consistent, you have to. I think it might be a spelling mistake here, but to be consistent, you must communicate the changes that might come up in life, schedules, etc., and discipline to power through the hard times that could derail the consistency that has been put in place."
That's my girl.
Yeah.
That's my girl. That's my girl. I do think communication is key, and again, I don't think Monica and I have the perfect playbook, but I will say that, both of our parents are divorced. We have talked about, conversations that we heard between our parents. We have talked about how the divorce itself affected us. And so we actually will take the time to tell our children when they hear us arguing, tell them that we were arguing, right? We don't really want to ignore what has just happened because I think, lack of communication can lead to nervousness, right? It can lead to the children feeling that they're not safe in the home. But consistency and communication in any format, I think, is what's going to get people over the hump each and every time. Transparent, consistent communication.
Yeah, it kind of hit me there with communication can maybe lead to like anxiety because it's like, okay, well, now what's my brain going to make up about it? In my childhood imagination, crazy brain. You know what I mean? If I just think like, I hear or see something that's like, oh, I'm not sure about that. Like, is everybody okay? I don't know. That I can see how that can lead to
Or how
anxiety.
about this? Does dad really hate himself? Does mom? That's what I heard them say. Is life really this hard? I don't want to go. I don't want to keep go. I don't want to keep going forward. If life is going to be this
Yeah,
crazy,
that's
why?
also true.
You know what I mean? Like
This
communicate.
is what being an adult is because that's what I saw. So why would I ever want to grow up?
Dang, that's deep.
Sorry.
No, I never thought about that. If all we saw was craziness from the adults who were raising us, why do we have any interest in trying to be an adult ourselves?
What? And
Dang.
I feel like that happens with a lot of people sometimes when they, they're put off to relationships and they don't want to, they have this bad idea about love because what is the example that they saw about love? And I see Paul shaking his head. Maybe he
Yeah,
has something.
nothing constructive to say. Just like we
He was
can.
trying to see if there was anything in it. He was just shaking his head.
Yeah, I just think sometimes as parents, again, not a parent, but as a former child, you can instill very negative things in your children by not. Silence can be just as damaging as screaming. I think sometimes
I agree.
silence hurt me. See, I didn't really have the screaming parents too much. I had like the silent thing where like I was just left to sit there and go, okay, like things are quiet, but like clearly things are wrong. No one's communicating with each other. I don't feel safe in this environment. And you just make stuff up in your head. And sometimes children blame themselves. I know a lot of people I grew up with that have broken homes that when mom and dad get divorced, they blame themselves. They think they're the reason why mom and dad split up, even though very obviously as an adult looking back, like, yeah, it wasn't me. But like children, it's very easy for them to come to that conclusion when there's no clear communication.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I've heard is that it's easier for children to blame themselves for something that, their parents are doing because it's too hard to recognize flaws in the person who's supposed to be taking care of you. So that's when it comes back on the child. So maybe, with somebody who's coming from a divorced home, well, this is my fault because how could my parents or my guardians ever do something wrong because I have to trust them with my life. So therefore it's easier to put the blame on myself.
So I think that this is a lot of great feedback. As we reach though the 8 p.m. mark to everything that Paul and Jackie just said, John Anthony, before we head out, I need you to take all of your years of knowledge. I need you to take all of your experience, education, and the people you've worked with, and I need you to give us the exact answer that is going to save all of our anxieties and mental health and well-being. You got to give it to me. You got to give me the exact way to do it.
Sorry if you didn't get it. That was your chance.
Well, we'll see everybody next week. John Anthony will be back again to hopefully give us the answer one more time.
No, I think that listening, kids learn from others. They see, and then they do what they see other people doing. And when I'm playing catch or hitting a balloon with my one daughter, and I try something different, she'll try it, because like I'm trying to score or she's trying to score, and she learns, by what she sees, and we all learn that way, and we are teaching our kids all the time, the good and the not so good. Um, I was in a non-work related meeting today, and this guy was talking about he was out in traffic. He had his son in the car. His son is about 19 or 20, and he's on the autistic scale. But he functions, and he's goes away to a college. But he was in the car with his father, and this car cut him off. And then the guy got out of the car, and then he got back in, and this guy's that I was talking to got really, really angry, and he got out of the car, and he went over and he opened up the car door of the other person, and he grabbed the shirt of the other person, and then he caught himself and realized what he was doing when he saw the fear in that guy's eyes. Like, what is this guy doing? It just like reminded him of himself, he said. And so he backed off, and then when he got in his car, his son said, "So Dad, is that how a man's supposed to act in that situation? Is that what you're supposed to do?" And took him 3 days, but finally he was able to have a follow-up with his son, and he said, "No, that's not what a real man does." He was able to say that, he was not showing him correctly when he wasn't modeling correctly. But we model all the time, and we learn, and we try things, we make mistakes, and that's what makes it challenging. It's what makes it fun and makes it unpredictable. And but like you said, especially for children, that predictability is very important for them. It gives them stability when they know what's going to happen, when they can predict that they're going to eat lunch at a certain time, when they're going to go home at a certain time, when they're going to get, all of that helps to give peace of mind and safety for them. And it's all about, and then, someone earlier was talking about anger. I just wish I could get across to people, whenever you find yourself being angry, take that extra step and ask yourself, what am I afraid of losing? What am I afraid of not getting? And that's the doing the work myself that you were talking about, Ryan, because I can't tell you what you're afraid of losing or not getting when you just showed that angry outburst. I'm talking hypothetically. You have to be able to look at that for yourself. And when you learn how to do that, then you're better able to take care of yourself. You're better able to alleviate your fears and disappointments and to bring love into your life from you to you, because you're not looking for it all to come from other people. You can see that you can be a source of love. So as I learned to be that source of love, as I learned to take responsibility for what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, and I do the best that I can, then I'm going to be the parent that I'm being. I'm going to make mistakes, but it's okay. We all make mistakes. The thing is to learn from our mistakes so that we don't keep repeating the same mistake over and over and over again.
Oh, he's muted.
You're muted, Ryan.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That you guys caught me before I went in a complete rant. So thank you. But what I was saying, John Anthony, was that one thing I want to say as we head into these final thoughts, to bounce off of yours. I think that's the one thing that I do the most when I'm trying to figure out why I'm upset, why I'm angry. Like, what am I really afraid of? So, to anybody, like John Anthony just said, if you are angry, if you're anxious, if you're having a rough day, just really try to figure out why. And if it involves somebody else, your partner, somebody at work or whatever, you know, it doesn't really matter how ridiculous it is. If it's important to you and it's important to the situation, whether it be your marriage, your work, your team, whatever, you have to figure out how to either resolve it or relay it. But my advice to some people would be, if you have an overactive thinking like mine, and maybe you were adopted at birth and then you met your biological mom later in life and you just keep riding, the boo hoo cry about me train. Um, Figure it out. Figure it out and tell your partner, tell those around you what's bothering you. And again, it might sound ridiculous to you, but it might really not be that ridiculous at all if it is bugging you consistently. And just figure out how to address it, figure out how to communicate it. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
Jackie, Paul, final thoughts?
You can't live on just gravy.
Oh my gosh, where's Monica? I told Monica that you were going to say that. That's her favorite line now.
She doesn't know what I'm talking about. No, because we talk about all the love you have to give yourself. That's
Yes.
the meat and potatoes. That's the meal. But the other people, they can help you, but that's just like the gravy for your meat and potatoes. But you can't live on just that. You have to give yourself the love. That's the most important. So you can't live on just gravy.
Right.
Yes.
So
There.
to try to explain a little further, Paul, I need to show respect to myself. And then in the understanding and the acceptance, the caring, appreciation, and trust, what we call the Are You a Cat? When I'm doing it, it's like me cooking meat and potatoes. I'm going to be just fine. I have enough to eat. When I get respect, understanding, acceptance, caring, appreciation, and trust from others, it's only equivalent to gravy. When you put the gravy on top of the meat and potatoes, it's really tasty. But if I'm not cooking the meat and potatoes of my own love for myself, I can't live off of gravy, off of other people's love. It's not going to sustain me. So that's what Jackie's referring to.
Got it. Now I understand. Because I had no idea what you were talking about.
He doesn't watch. He didn't watch.
He didn't watch last week's episode, or was it last week's? I think it was
No,
last
that wasn't all last week. Because I watched the end of last week's.
week's.
Yes.
Oh, well, listen, we didn't really talk about, young men's health in particular. And again, I tried to figure out how to discuss what I wanted to talk about. And what it came down to was we started out talking about labels. We started talking about how they can affect a person's mindset about themselves and how it can affect the trajectory of many other things to come. And then we went on and we talked about big emotions that we feel as a kid, societal expectations for both men and women, and all of the things in that arena. So, like we said, what it comes down to communication. Give yourself the love that you need. Give yourself the love that you deserve. Communicate. Be transparent. Okay. And the other piece of it, we're talking about a lot about what we can do for ourselves. If you see somebody who looks like they need a friend, give them a hand, right? Talk to them, ask them what's going on, because we're talking about all the things that we can say to our children and to our partners and things like that. But there are people out there that don't have the resources or the people available to them. So just be mindful. That's going to be my last final thought for the evening. But also, how does this all tie into martial arts? Well, at Flow State, here comes the piece of it. Coach Jackie and I, we take our experience, we take John Anthony's knowledge as well as the knowledge of other people whom we think will benefit our students, our younger students as well. And we do try to teach that to them. One thing I always talk about is that we don't talk to our students like they're children. We like to talk to our students like they are adults. We like to give them the respect that they deserve as a human, and we want to show them how to act out there in society. We do work on controlling their deep emotions, their big emotions. We do work on taking deep breaths. And it is important to have emotional control and control over your body when you are conducting martial arts in order to be effective. And that's one of the things, or a few of the things that we work on at Flow State Martial Arts. So, John Anthony, do you have information that you want to drop to people if they would like to get in touch with you so that they can work on things on their emotional healing side?
Well, I can be reached at 215-750-0323. Also, www.supportivealliance.net. And
Excellent.
so what you're saying, Ryan, if you see somebody walking that high wire of life and they're struggling, keeping their balance, go help them out. Go walk up to them and knock them off. They don't have to worry.
But as long as they have water under them, so that they can
Just kidding.
that
Just
we
kidding.
so that we can have hopefully a safe outcome. But no, that's John Anthony's information. I've worked with him for quite a while. He's been in business for over 20 years.
Longer than that.
Longer than that. So he's been in business, and the young man knows what he's talking about. And then for us at Flow State, everything is free until 2025. We know that there's a lot going on in the country. We know that nobody wants to add another bill to the bills that they have already. And also, we want you to feel better. We want you to get ready for yourself. We want you to get ready for those around you. And if you have some personal goals that you want to hit come January 1st, 2026, we want to help you hit the ground running. So we aim to be back next week, Thursday at 7, unless anything changes. If you joined us, thank you. If you're seeing this after the fact, thank you. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to our Instagram page and our YouTube page. And Coach Jackie's going to cut me off.
I thought John Anthony was raising his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, go
I
ahead,
just
John
wanna
Anthony.
say,
Sorry.
You know, a couple weeks ago, my daughter Leilani had a parents against the kids soccer game, and so I went out there and I played, and the fathers it was mostly fathers, but there was mothers too, and that we were stretching out, and the guy started saying, yeah, I haven't been on a soccer field since I was 28, and I haven't been on it, since I was this. And I looked around at all of them and I said, the last time I was on a soccer field, none of you were even born.
Listen, I'm sure that you did better than anybody on the soccer field. I'm gonna bet that money.
No, I did it better than in my age group. I was the best in my age group.
In your bracket.
But the thing was, it's all relative, and but I was in high school, the last time I played soccer, and they weren't born. So.
It is wild. I'm starting to realize that the doctors and police officers that I see, well, I don't see a lot of police officers, but I see them around, right? They're starting to look much younger than myself. They're starting to look like their uniforms don't even fit them quite yet. That they gotta, gain some muscle to fit into them. But anyway, that times are changing, right? We're all growing. But that doesn't mean anything. The age doesn't matter. We all still have a lot of work to do on ourselves. And like John Anthony said, that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it interesting. But make sure that you're still looking out for yourself and all of those around you.
Okay.
All right. So that's going to be it for this episode of Flow State Off the Mats. We will see you all next Thursday. Have a great night.
Bye.